encouraging. I mean, I know we are good-looking people. And we don't mind coming a little bit closer. So I invite you to come a little bit closer. Come a little bit closer to us. I want you to remember that we are going to be having a robust discussion. A real robust discussion. I don't know about you, but if you have been watching the news, if you even leave your houses, you'd recognize that there is something happening. And it needs the voice and hands and heart of all of us to make the difference that is needed. At this point in time, it is my pleasure to invite to the podium my regional manager, Central Region, Mrs. Janet Roberts Bowen. Make her welcome, please. Come on, no think a thing about here. Come on, man. Let us make her welcome.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is such a privilege of mine to be hosting you all this evening for our town hall meeting. Are you happy to be here? Are you happy to have an opportunity to discuss, to speak about the issues that are facing our communities? Are you happy about that opportunity? Thank you so very much for coming. And I am really looking forward to an exciting evening. I just want to really extend welcome to all of you officially, right? I want to apologize first for our ministers, Minister of Health and State Minister who were scheduled to be here, but at this point are unavoidably absent. Also, I would like to apologize for our Executive Director, Mr. Michael Tucker, who will not be able to make it with us this afternoon. But I am so happy you're here, my colleagues, my friends, all of us. But I want to point out a few persons at this point. And so at first I want to welcome my director, Ms. Colette Curlew, the director of our Client Services Department, our research analyst, Mrs. Uki Atkinson, who you'll be hearing from, our panelists who are currently seated on the platform. There are a few others who will be here in short order. Welcome, Dr. Garvey. It's so nice to have you. So Dr. Garvey is coming, okay? And to my immediate left here is Mr. Anthony Freckleton, and he represents our civil society. He is the president for the Manchester Parish Development Committee. And if you need to know anything about what is happening in Manchester, he is the person to talk to. Okay? So I'm just telling you, if you need to know anything about what is happening in Manchester, he is the person to talk. He won't have the time this evening to tell you because we're just going to be talking drugs. But, you know, I'm so happy he's here. And then the other gentleman on my left is Reverend Lamar Wildman, and he is a guidance counselor by profession, but minister of religion and pastor of the Chantilly New Testament Church. And beside him, gracefully seated, is Mrs. Melissa Bailey Folks. She's an educational social worker in the Ministry of Education, and we are so happy you were able to join us. To my far left is that gentleman who prayed a while ago, and if you notice, we have the same surname. Okay? Yes, we have the same surname. So that is Mr. Reverend Bishop Samuel Bowen. Sorry, my dear. So we thank you so very much for praying for us, and we are happy that you were able to join us. And then beside him is Miss Gabrielle Bryan, right? And Miss Bryan is the head girl of the Manchester High School. She's the president of the Prefects Association for Jamaica, and she is here with us this afternoon, and she's being supported by a colleague. Welcome. And I'm turning to my right. Right hand is a strong hand, sir, and so I'm very happy that you are here. This is Councillor Jones Oliphant. He's representing Mayor of Mandeville, Mayor Donovan Mitchell, and we are so happy you were able to join us. And Dr. Paul, welcome. Dr. Paul represents President from NCU. We are so happy that you all joined us. My friends, Dr. Garvey, we have a place up here for you. Let us see whom I am welcoming. So Dr. Garvey, I called her name earlier, and she is a regional psychiatrist with the Southern Region Ministry of Health. Welcome. In the audience, my colleagues, my friends, SDC, Jamaica Library Service, right? Jamaica Library Service, SDC, all of you from SDC, I'm so happy to see you here. You know, we should have, are you here, my friends from Commonwealth Caribbean, University of the Commonwealth Caribbean? Are you? Yes, lovely, lovely, they are here. Thank you. So that is Miss Blair, Miss Faith Blair and Miss Michelle Smith. Thank you so very much. Oh, I'm so very sorry, Doc. I couldn't see your face. I didn't know you. I didn't realize it was you. So happy, Doc, you are here. So this is, welcome, Doc. This is Dr. Vitilius Holder. She is a regional technical director with the Ministry of Health, Southern Region. So happy you were able to make it. Thank you so very much. And at the back, my colleagues, all of you, my colleague from Western Region, Mr. Clifton Morris, who traveled all the way to be with us over here in Central. We are so happy you were able to join us, Mr. Morris. My technical team from the NCDA, from Fentel, we all appreciate you being here. The media personnel who are here, so happy you were able to make it, and I am looking forward to a great evening with you all. Thank you so very much, and God bless you. Here, Daddy.
Wonderful. Another round of applause, please. You see, I know it is after work hours. The library is closed. Let me remind you. So it's okay. It's okay for us to have a good cut of wampus time in the town hall meeting this evening. What a topical issue. I don't know. I'm going to ask my co-worker to get ready the vape pen for me. She knows herself. I don't know how many persons in the house know what it looks like. And we want to show it off this evening. We want to show it off. We are not going to show it off yet, but we're going to show it off. I want you to know that Omar is in the house, and you will see him and hear him in a little while. Jody is in the house. The Ministry of Labor is in the house. You know she's looking around. Mrs. Anderson is in the house. And they're looking around as if to say, Mrs. Hall is in the house. She's looking around like, really? Yes. Josine is up here, so Josine knows. It is my distinct pleasure to be hosting the program this evening. I know I just saw my friend walk in the house, but I'll wait a moment. At this point in time, I am having all the good times. You see, when your double boss is in the house, it's a time for you to have a good time. Don't worry, the finance minister is not here, but it's okay for you to have a good time. You see, my executive director wasn't able to be here, but we have Miss Colette Curlew Director of Client Services, who will bring us greetings on his behalf at this point in time. Make her welcome, please.
The stage is almost taller than I am. Good evening, everyone. How are we doing? It's still evening, right? It's not night yet. It's dark, but it's still evening, right? All right. So good evening, everyone. I will observe the protocols as Janet did earlier. It's good to have you in the house, and I represent Mr. Tucker. As you heard earlier, he couldn't be here, and he expresses his apology, right, that he could not be here. But we are excited to be here. Why are we excited to be here? What's the buzzword that Justine said? What will we be doing today? We'll talk the truth. Yes, what we're talking the truth about? Drug use and how it is impacting us. You know what I also want us to talk about? What else can we talk about? How we can make it trending and what is our role and our responsibility. So in this discussion today, let's be talking freely about that. What are the problems we're seeing and how can I help to resolve that problem? So we thank our partners for being here, the esteemed panelists, our guests, specially invited guests. Thank you for being here. Jan did the welcome earlier, but I also want to say thank you for partnering with us. We cannot do this journey by ourselves. Drug-free lifestyle training takes the village. Remember the days of the village raising the child? That's the days that we want to go back to. And I invite you to dialogue with us today to take your role, your position in making this drug-free lifestyle trending. Madam Host and MC, you're doing a wonderful job. One day I want to be like you, bubbly. In the interim, I'll take my seat here and hand over to Justine. I look forward to the robust discussion and to hear what you will be doing and what we'll be doing so that we can make Jamaica the place of choice to live, raise family, do business, and to make drug-free lifestyle Okay, have a great evening. Thank you.
Come on, let's do it, let's do it, let's do it. Let's make some noise in the house. At this point in time, we continue with our greetings. And we are going to hear from the mayor's representative, Councillor Jones Oliphant, at this time. He's the councillor for the Mandeville division. Mr. Oliphant, will you come? A round of applause, please.
Thank you, Ms. Justine. I tell you, I don't know what is happening over that corner, but it just seemed to trigger off my sinus, something. I don't know what happened. Yes, yes. Okay. Ms. Justine, Marshall, members of the Drug Abuse Committee, panelists, I see my good friend Dr. Garvey and company, and also the ladies who run this organization, panelists, and all those guests who are here this evening. I want to say good evening to you. Just one of those things that act up. Act up on me, I don't know. Okay. Yes, maybe. Not the last one. The first one is better. But it just seemed, anyway, yes. I want to say on behalf of the mayor of Mandeville, Councillor Donovan Mitchell, he would have loved to be here, but he is not here due to some circumstances. But as you know, as a municipal corporation, we are called on from time to time to represent one another, and we need to do it. and especially because you are having this function in my division, it is just equal that I should welcome everyone to this meeting. I want to say that one of my favorite authors, Ellen G. White, in her book Messages to Young People, made a specific caution to young people. I think it's page 62, paragraph 4, where she said, young people, the admonition that she gave to young people as it relates to drugs was touch not, taste not, hunger not. In other words, stay away from drugs, irrespective how mild it may seem, so that you don't get yourself having to use it. And you know, drug-free is hard. I hope this can do a little trick. I hope it can do a little trick, but if not, yes. So one of our first things that we always say to young people is leave drugs alone. Don't try it. Don't be like me, who I remember we had a fair at school, and I wanted to show off, and we bought a pack of cigarettes. It was Albany at the time. And I shared it with our friends. And when I light it and I drew it, my throat, I don't know if I didn't do it right or wrong, but I felt fire in my throat. And I said, I will never touch cigarette again. And another way that I was introduced to drug was very subtle. Whenever time Dad was drinking his beer or drinking his rum, he would say, boy, come take a sip. So I would start to sip because it was given to me by Dad. And while Dad was drinking the beer and drinking the rum, chased with milk, he shared it with me. And then I discovered that I've developed a taste for alcohol. And it was not until I decided one day, based on how I saw the rum did to my uncles who worked in the sugar industry, where rum was distilled and made, and out of 7 uncles, 4 died from cirrhosis of the liver. So I said, no way, no way. And I will say to my young people over those on social media, stay away from drugs as much as possible. And I want to congratulate this organization for bringing drug awareness and drug abuse, because we can abuse drug with ease, even prescription drugs can be abused. So let us try and do our best. The mayor's message goes like this. That was my message. So I will go to the mayor's message now. November is recognized as Drug Awareness Month. In light of this, the National Council on Drug Abuse, NCDA, has planned events for the month. This year, the month is being observed under the theme, Drug-Free Lifestyle Trending. This theme is very relevant in this time, as never before in the history of humankind has the abuse of drugs been such a threat to quality of life as it is today. In the contemporary world, illicit trafficking in drugs has increasingly assumed a transnational and international dimension. an unprecedented increase in the consumption of illegal drugs, also legal drugs, among various populations has emerged as a major problem of social development. We continue to have this. And there are some people who are so addicted to prescription drugs that they cannot eat, they cannot sleep unless they get drugs, prescription drugs. It's just as dangerous. The disruptive influence of drug abuse on the individual, the family, the workplace, the community, and society has become a matter of grave concern. In response to such an alarming situation, the United Nations has embarked on a global program for curbing the supply of and reducing the demand for dependence and production of drugs. It has, however, been widely realized that while collaborating effort is imperative for drug control, the government has to devise its own strategy in keeping with the prevailing social, cultural, and economic condition. It is my hope that as we sit and listen to these experts this evening, we will hear about the plans to identify, treat, rehabilitate, and in the correct use of drugs. Ladies and gentlemen, the mayor's message. Thank you.
Thank the councillor for both messages. We are very happy. We are very happy. I want to invite my colleagues, one of my colleagues to join me. Mrs. Bowen, could you join me at the podium, please? We are going to proceed this evening. But how could I press on? How could I press on? We have a very special lady in the room, Patrina Morrison. She's from our head office. She's in our M&E department, and I tell you, she keeps us on our toes and makes sure that whatever we do is accounted for. I could not let her be in the room, and I don't acknowledge her. A round of applause for her, please. Thank you so very much. Yes. So we are going to continue. I tell you that Shanique Scott is in the house. And you might be wondering, you see, we have a very contagious disease at the National Council on Drug Abuse. Once you join the family, you never leave the family. And so Shanique worked as our secretary and administrative assistant for a while, and now she moved on, but she has never left the agency. Welcome, Miss Scott. Miss Natalie Horton is in the house. She is the newest member to the Central Region family. Miss Nats, could you just stand and just wave? She's our current assistant, academic assistant. In the house too, we have our long-standing volunteer. There are two of them actually working right now, and one is in the house. Sharifa Bowen, could you just wave to us? Always with us. And Justin Baker is working on the Zoom platform. So to all our listeners on Zoom and Facebook and YouTube and everywhere else, we say thank you for joining. We want you to know you can send your questions. We have persons monitoring. Don't worry about it. You can join the discussion as you post your questions. They will be taken, they will be received, and they will be addressed. You can also share your comments. I want you to know that it's not just about asking questions. I want you to know that we want your ideas as well. If we're going to fix this, it's going to take every one of us to do this. And no idea is stupid. No question is too small to ask. We want it to be such a discussion that I leave here saying, you know, we are coming to the end of Drug Awareness Month, and we can't wait. You may just be able to inject us so well this evening that we leave here and say, oh, we could go another week. We don't feel like that right now, but I know when we're through this evening, that's how we're going to feel. At this point in time, ladies and gentlemen, we will have our musical item? Am I seeing Sir Omar? Yes, I see him. The person who will be bringing that musical item to us this evening, I want to tell you two things about him. Should I tell you two things about him? I want you to know that the person who is coming to us this evening, maybe above all of us, have seen some things in his career path that not many of us would have seen or some of us have heard of. He is a principal. I won't tell you which school he is. And he's a justice of the peace. I tell you. And he's our songbird this evening. Put your hands together. A round of applause for Omar Thomas.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for the invite. Sister Baker, thank you very, very much. I did not know that it was such a grand occasion. If I had known, I would have probably wear my jacket and tie.
Is that right?
Yes. Right. I'm a little bit hoarse, though.
That's all right.
But I'm going to still try and do it. All right. I used to think that I could not go on, and life was nothing but an awful song. But now I know the meaning of true love. I'm leaning on the everlasting arms. If I can see it, then I can do it. If I just believe it, there's nothing to it. I believe I can fly. I believe I can touch the sky. I think about it every night and day. Spread my wings and fly away. I believe I can soar. See me running through that open door. I believe I can fly. I believe I can fly. Oh, I believe I can fly. See, I was on the verge of breaking down. Sometimes silence can seem so loud. There are miracles in life I must achieve. But first I know it starts inside of me. Oh, if I can see it, then I can do it. If I just believe it, there's nothing to it. I believe I can fly. I believe I can touch the sky. I think about it every night and day. Spread my wings and fly away. I believe I can soar. See me running through that open door. I believe I can fly. I believe I can fly. Oh, I believe I can fly. Say, I believe in you. Oh, if I can see it, then I can do it. If I just believe it, there's nothing to it. I believe I can fly. I believe I can touch the sky. I think about it every night and day. I spread my wings and fly away. I believe I can soar. See me running through that open door. I believe I can fly. I believe I can fly. Oh, I believe I I can fly.
Come on, we can do better than that. Come on, man. Come on, we can do better than that. We haven't had a town hall meeting in a long time. And I want to believe that since I'm with the council, this is our first in the parish. So I don't want us to make this look like it ain't happening. I want us to make sure that it happens. We thank Sir Thomas. I'm sure that after that rendition, we all believe. Have we made believers out of you this evening? We all believe that we can fly. Come on. And it doesn't take some alcoholic beverages, and it doesn't take marijuana to make us high. Are you with me? We believe that drug-free lifestyle must trend, and it is currently trending. Another round of applause for the man. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I think I saw the lady enter the door. Miss Paulette Ferguson, JCSA chapter chair for Manchester. I'm sure I saw her somewhere. A round of applause for her. And I'm sure I saw her earlier. I just forget to call her name. There is a special woman who takes care of all of us in my office. Miss Hanson, where are you? A round of applause. Yes, 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 yes. You see, we have to call it what it is. We couldn't be here without everybody else. And so at this moment, we have only special people in this house. Somebody I've grown to respect, admire, loved Yvonne, I'll tell you. Somebody who I've always sit at the edge of my chair to listen to her presentations. And this evening, we are graced with the presence of the beautiful, vivacious, I want you to understand me, our research analyst, Mrs. Uki Atkinson. Put your hands together for her, please.
Good evening, everyone. I was wondering who Justine was talking about. But anyway, thank you very much for that, Joe. Good evening, everyone. It is really a pleasure for me to be here with you. And I am going to briefly outline some realities that we all need to pay attention to. So as Ms. Curlew started with the whole thing about the village, and it takes a village to raise a child, I'm going to continue with that theme. So we all know, thank you, we all know that saying, right? It takes a village to raise a child. There is something that I heard recently, continuing that saying, to say that when the village stops caring for the children, everybody all right around there? When the village stops caring for the children, follow me now because everything is okay around there, the children will light fires that burn it down. Let's just take a moment to, and this is not my saying, it's somebody I heard, mention that the other day. No, the NCDA wishes to highlight some of these fires that are burning in our midst. And the way that the reason why we know about these fires is based on a rapid situation assessment that we recently conducted. We know that the entire world recently went through trying times, and we're still going through trying times. We also know that globally, these trying times have impacted people's thought patterns, their behaviors, and no less so have these trying times impacted our own adolescent population. So here are some of the things that they told us that they are going through. Mental health problems. So anxiety and depression has seemingly increased among our young people. And I'm talking about adolescents 13 to 17 here. We also have been seeing weekly increased aggression and fighting and so on in the school system, right? We know this. This is not new information. Another thing that we know is the exposure to what would be considered less than desirable content on social media. Everything that you can think of that is not appropriate can be accessed on various platforms. TikTok being the chief one among them at this point, right? There are things on TikTok that teach young people how to do things that are very detrimental to their health, including, and this has nothing to do with drug use. There's a trend on TikTok about eating a very peppery chip. And when people eat it, the impact that it has had on them is like what the challenge is that you eat it and then you don't have anything to drink within 5 minutes after eating it. And you see people vomit, you see people eyes start to cry, and you wonder to yourself, why are these things trending as something that would be desirable for people to do? All right, let me continue. There is the fact that there are songs and popular songs that are glorifying things like scamming, which is now called chopping the line, if you didn't know. They're glorifying them a chopper. Right, that is a better way to say, or the appropriate way to say it, right? Not chopping the line. All right. All right, and it's not a joke, right? It's not a joke because there are a number of students who have dropped out of school because that is a more desirable lifestyle than to sit and do a 9 to 5. So sitting and going through school to the end of your education years is no longer considered, by some, not all, no longer considered to be important because they can make, and there are songs that talk about how much million you can draw down is not nothing for withdraw down. And the entertainment industry, there's always a place for dancehall. We're not knocking dancehall. There's always a place for dancehall. But when you sing things that start to influence youth behavior, then there's an issue that we have. All right? Now, those are all of the other things. Let's talk about drug use. Another fire that is definitely starting in our midst is the fact that our young people are more amenable to experimenting with some new things that are in Jamaica. Not necessarily brand new, but becoming more popular. And I'm talking specifically about MDMA, Molly, ecstasy, those synthetic drugs that are considered to be party drugs and available widely across the island. At parties, in communities, they know how it looks, they know how to get it. Just today, we were told about a school where 96 students are known to be vaping. A school where a young man who was drunk at school attempted to fight the teacher because she went and reported his name to the authorities because he was drunk at school. So, and we're not trying to be sensational here, right? We're not trying to be sensational. We are merely letting the village know that it is time for everybody to pay attention. No longer can we sit down and say, the government need to fix it. The teacher them need to fix it. The parents need to fix it. Everybody has to see it as our responsibility. If we fail to do this, the fear is that these things will escalate. Not only will they escalate, but the associated problems are going to get to a point where we cannot handle it. And again, we say we're not being sensational. We have seen societies very close to us where things like opioid crises are taking place, where 80,000 people last year died because of overdose of opioids, right? Now, what we are saying is we do not want to get there. The things that are trending, we want to be able to cauterize them. We want to be able to prevent young people from using substances and delay that for as late as possible. Our educators, I must add, are under significant pressure. They are handling, imagine, just trying to teach children in this environment is difficult in and of itself because they're not settled. Add to that, children who think they can make more money than you, and they're more powerful than you, and they're better than you, and they're under the influence of things, and they're selling things at school, and they are fighting, so our educators cannot fix it in and of themselves. They cannot fix it by themselves. And therefore, the call from the NCDA is to increase partnership across the board. It is slightly disappointing that more of the village is not here at the town hall meeting. We have to say it. This topic clearly is not seen by more people to be important enough for us to sit down and talk it through. Where is the rest of the village? It's not for want of not inviting people here tonight, why we don't have people here, but we want to really send a call out to persons to understand their role and to understand that we need them in this fight against substance use. Now, one of the things that we like to outline is that we're not only focusing on the problem, but we're also focusing on what can we do to address it. With me? What are we doing? So the drug-free lifestyle trending public education program is one such step. This is a program that we intend to sustain over 2 years. Now, it's not just Drug Awareness Month, and we're not just making a big, town halls, which people don't not come into. Town halls, school tours, it's not only about the hype, we are also going to be on the platforms that the children are on. But when you go on the platforms that children are on, you can't go on platforms with content like this, because adolescents don't necessarily, this will put them to sleep, right? So we have to use entertaining methods, things that will grab their attention. So for instance, last week, or week before last, we were at Jose Marti High School. And yes, we had a discussion in a hall like this, but we had to take it outside where they were doing dirt bounce and doing all kind of things, and you intersperse all those activities with content to increase their awareness. Not only do we need to increase public awareness, we also need to reach parents, because guess what? If we try and do this thing without paying attention to parenting and home environments, we will get nowhere. And the parents who we need most are the ones who are least likely to come out, not true? So educators will tell us when we have parenting events and PTA events, is all the good parents come. They're converted. So what we need to do is take our services closer to where the parents are and have them in the community. That's another thing that we're doing. In addition, we are, tell me for time, Joe, almost winding on. In addition, we are partnering with the Ministry of Education to be able to update the current school policy on drugs. That policy was updated in 2015, and perhaps, and this is not an evidence-based estimate, this is what you would call it, an estimation that perhaps 75% of the schools do not even know what the content of the policy is. So what we find happening is that schools are largely relying on their own intuitive consideration of what they should do with this student who has come before them because he's drinking, he's drunk, he's smoking around the back of the school, he's selling, and she, not only he, and she is selling, edibles in the school and so on. What we want to be able to do is have a standard way to deal with those students. So that the standard way, yes, it may include suspension and expulsion, but that's not necessarily the first thing that you go to. Because when you expel those students, what happens to them? Where do they end up? And some of them end up in our penal system, right? Behind bars. And so what the NCDA is trying to do, and we're not saying that every child who is expelled or every child who is found with drugs, we don't want that come on in the newspaper tomorrow. That's not what we're saying, right? But we are saying that if you provide a child with an opportunity to go through an evidence-based process of treatment where you get at least 6 months with them, because it cannot change overnight. If a child is dependent on a substance, you can't, as a school, expect, all right, we refer him to NCDA, give him 3 days, and then he must come back reformed. Is that realistic? So, and the ministry knows this and recognizes this, and therefore what we want to do is partner with schools to be able to update the policy with their input as well. It's not the NCDA going to be saying, this is what you must do, this is what you must do. We are also partnering with the people who know most what they see to be able to develop reasonable solutions. All right, last thing, last? All right. We are also doing additional population-based studies. So this is necessary because our rapid assessment alone can't tell us the scope of the problem. So we are conducting a national drug prevalence survey starting in January, where we're going to be going through all parishes, and we're going to be doing a survey among 12 to 65-year-olds. We're also doing a school-based survey in 26 St. Catherine schools to be able to look at what is really happening with this issue. It's not just Molly. We're still using alcohol. We're still using cannabis. In fact, alcohol is the drug that is most widely used. So there are soaking gummy bears in rum, now called rummy bears. Very popular. Big business for some students in some schools. Jello shots, jelly shots, all sorts of ways. Now, if we were to hone these students' minds and put it to good use, can you imagine how much more successful outcomes we would have if we were to channel their energies otherwise? And sometimes that's all they need, that guidance, that acceptance, that listening ear, because another thing that the young people told us in those focus groups is that people are not listening to them. They do not feel understood. They don't trust people. And it was very, very disheartening to hear adolescents say that they can't think of one person that they trust. So we are, as the village, failing our children. And the encouragement is that we pull up socks and do better. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. Did I tell you? Have you heard? We need to be able to make our voices be heard. We need to be a part of this life-changing experience and the culture shift that must happen if Jamaica is going to be what it ought to be. Thank you so much, Mrs. Atkinson. I want us to listen to a youth. I want us to hear the voice of our young people. And it is my distinct pleasure to bring to you today Miss Gabrielle Bryan. You're going to hear from another youth, but this one now. Gabrielle Bryan, head girl, Manchester High School, the president of the Jamaica Prefects Association, and here is the big one, the first female president of the Jamaica Prefects Association. A round of applause for Gabrielle. She'll talk to us from a student perspective.
Thank you all. Good night, everyone. All protocols observed. Wow. There are a few more titles to add, but that's not tonight's. That's not tonight's event. You know, it might take a while. You know, it's fine. I am so grateful to be here tonight. Honestly, I truthfully believe, as a student leader, that oftentimes, and I listen, Mrs. Bacon, I agree with you. I was, in fact, on the edge of my seat. Thank you. Yes. So, as a student leader, as a youth, I would agree with saying that sometimes the voices aren't heard. And so I'm grateful that I've been given this opportunity, that I'm able to be placed at the table with the persons making the decisions, with the persons who have maybe a louder voice than mine, with somebody who is able to do something for our students. As a student advocate, it is my duty, really, to attend these events, ensure that students within all school systems get a chance to be heard. One of the things I heard first was the fact that there's a prevalence of alcohol. We talk about drugs, but alcohol, tobacco, cigarettes, marijuana, inhalants. Earlier I heard we were bringing out the vapes, so when I say inhalants, that's what we refer to. Prevalent amongst our primarily secondary high school students. Now, I'm going to whisper this till I know. Yes, and I do not speak for Manchester High School alone. Unfortunately, or fortunately really, I've been given the opportunity as a student leader to venture out, to network with my peers from various institutions. I sit on regional and national bodies where I get to see these things firsthand. I get the reports. A lot of the reports come to me first, where I'm able to see the incidents in schools. 2022 alone, we would have recognized that violence in schools has become extremely prevalent. The cause for this, we can't get into, really, because we're talking about social backgrounds, economic backgrounds, social standings, and mental health issues, things of this nature. But obviously, alcohol and drug abuse has a big part to play in that. I speak not only for Manchester High School, but I speak for a lot of other schools that I've been able to come in contact with, that really and truly, a lot of our students have become dependent upon these substances. Truthfully speaking. I would also agree in saying that alcohol continues to be the substance that is most widely used amongst our students. And so I'm grateful for the National Council on Drug Abuse, because they've been an agency that has enabled and provided a source of, provided a source of initiative building, initiative development for school-based interventions. I've not worked with the NCDA before, but trust me, this is not the last, right? And I look forward to doing more work, because as a student leader, trust me, I'm telling you, when I say when you step into these schools and you get the reports and you hear the incidents, you really have to wonder what is going on. Fortunately, I can't come here today and tell you directly that this is the cause, this is the issue, this is what we need to do. I want to be part of the solution. Yes, I'm a youth. Yes, I'm talking now, but I'm looking forward to being part of the decision-making process. That is what this is about. Now, present-day studies have determined that the prevalence of recent drug use among high school students in Jamaica correlate with sex, age, school location, socioeconomic backgrounds. Like I would have said, and it was stated, this does not only apply to our male students. This is prevalent now, more recently, amongst our female students. I'm telling you, when I walk into classrooms and I see where students are selling, you have to become concerned, very concerned. When you hear of vending within the schools, you have to think fast. As head prefect, really, you have to be very snappy to shut it down, because guess what? sometimes these things not only affect the person selling or the person who is using, but it affects other students. What happens when a student doesn't understand the situation, doesn't understand what they're getting themselves into? Then that becomes an issue within the school where you have to say, okay, this could become an epidemic within our school system, and we can't afford for that to happen, because we need our students to be cohesive, coherent, learning within our school system. The Ministry of Education is working hard to ensure that students are recovering from this COVID-19 pandemic that we've just came out of, and I can tell you as a student, it has been difficult, the recovery process coming out of COVID-19. I'm telling you, the social and psychological impacts that COVID-19 has had on students is beyond recognition, beyond measure, truthfully. I believe, my personal opinion, this COVID-19 pandemic would have been one of the causes of the most recent increase in drug use within our schools. Students no longer know how to, I don't want to say conduct themselves, but students no longer have a healthy way to direct their paths. Students are no longer interested in clubs and societies and extracurricular activities that would help them and guide them and mold them. Students want to be outside on TikTok. We have to snap and you have to set the, yes, I'm telling you, man. We have to get the one like a stir fry and dirt bunks and yes. And like right. Yes, man. These are the things that our students are interested in. And I would have seen one of the school tours that NCDA would have done recently, and I heard about it earlier in the evening, where to get the students' attention, you had to bring the more recent and cultural aspects into it. No longer can you sit a student in a seminar and say, this is what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about drug abuse. That no longer happens. If you don't have the music in the background to distract them, then it makes no point. It goes through one ear and out the other. Students now are at the point where you have to level with them. I'm telling you about the psychological effects that COVID-19 has had. And I'm speaking from experience, my personal experience at my school, experiences within Manchester. This is not just affecting rural or urban schools. This is an everybody issue. And I'm happy to see so many partners tonight, because it really does take a village. It really does take a village to raise our children, our students, and I look forward to seeing the work that we continue to do to ensure that students, and we can get back to some level of semblance within our school system. Now, one of the biggest issues that I can tell you that we're having is when students become reliant on drugs. They become dependent on the drug. Now, honestly, this is where the issue comes in as a student leader. When a student comes to you and they say to you, listen, I don't know what to do. I don't know who to talk to. I don't know how to function properly. This is where the issue comes in. This is why I'm glad that you have programs and initiatives such as these, which enable us as student leaders, as a friend of a friend, as a friend, to be able to recommend something to someone. I'm telling you, sometimes the guidance counselor is not enough. Yes, I'm telling you this. I'm telling you that students no longer can say they feel comfortable talking to maybe a guidance counselor, your deans, your principals. They find other students to turn to. Unfortunately, our students are not necessarily as tuned in as they should be, so they're either going to encourage the behavior, join in, instead of telling them, here's a solution. Here is a possible way out. Here's what we can do. Here's a solution to this problem. Let me help you out of it. Now, the psychological impacts, and I've seen this all too often, and I know as adults, you've all seen it. So I just want a yes. I just want a little response. Right? Yeah, man. I don't like to feel like I'm just talking, you know? Yeah, man. Well, when we talk about truancy from schools becoming a very big issue within our school system, of course, we have to mention the risky sexual practices. Of course, we have to mention the depression that students are facing, the anxiety, of course, impaired memory loss, psychological problems, and worse. And in closing, I mention primarily the academic performance of our students. So I look forward to the discussion that will take place tonight. So going forward, we will have a solution for our children. Thank you.
Wonderful. I tell you, we are on fire. Aren't we on fire? Come on. We are on fire in Manchester this evening. From our Zoom platform, we got a comment, go Chester champion. So all right, Gabriel. There's someone who said, I'm at 2 schools in St. Catherine where students in primary school reports to me that they smoke. Some boys see someone finish ganja spliff on the road and take it up and light it and smoke it. Crazy world. It sounds like it's a crazy world. And you know something is going to get rougher yet. I want you to know. Some time ago, Red Rat, sang a song, and I don't know if you people too young to know. It said, street side of me base. Me no have me one place. Yes, me not going to tell you what you eat out of this evening. Are you with me, somebody? I want us to understand that what we are talking about is drug-free lifestyle. We want everybody to have them own a place and eat out of them plate and nobody jam out and no paint pan. That's what the thing said. That's what Red Rat said. Okay, so we're moving on this evening. We want the discussion to come on, so we have some people who are going to be sharing with us. We're only giving them, my program says we give them only 4 minutes to talk to us because we have a lot to say to them and to have the discussion running. No, man, you don't have to be afraid. All of us are talking, so be quiet. Nobody needs to be timid in the house. We are here for the discussion. So this is the way we are going to run it. I'm going to invite at this point in time, should we take the psychiatrist first following where Gabriel went? I think we would have been, it would have been, sort of beefing it up. So let us take the psychiatrist, Dr. Dorrit Garvey. Put your hands together, a round of applause for her. And right on the heels of her, we will hear from Melissa Bailey, folks from the Ministry of Education. Are you hearing me? No, Melissa, I'm going to ask you to speak after Mr. Wildman, who would have spoken as a guidance counselor. And then we are going to hear from Melissa Bailey Folk from the Ministry of Education. And then we have another youth in the house. And then we are going to hear from the man who has Manchester in his heart and is in the heart of Manchester, Mr. Anthony Freckleton. And that's how we are going to do it. And then we are going to have the questions running. So we have 4 minutes, Time them for me, please. Raise your hand, Patrina, I'm depending on you. Raise your hand down there when we're getting close to the time so we can hear everybody from the perspective that they're coming from. It is my distinct pleasure, where is she, to hand over to my colleague and friend, Dr. Coffey.
Thank you, Mrs. Rachel Baker. All protocols observed. It's good to be here sharing in this meeting. And I'm grateful to have my supervisor
I like it.
here with us this evening. Gabrielle is the name, right? Yes. Powerful girl, powerful. I don't even need to say anything after you've spoken. So I'm coming from a perspective of health. And yes, I am seeing the children from primary school to university, secondary school, and of course, yes, adolescents are in university too. And the problems are many. Mental health is real. I didn't say madness.
I love it. Fix it.
Mental health is very, very real, a real part of us. And I don't have half an hour to talk, so let me just try to get to the main thing about youth. What is happening with them? The use of substances is proliferating like nobody's business. And the effects on our society, our lives, nobody can ignore that. Now, we know that there are many things. All that Gabrielle spoke about, truancy, risky behavior, including sexual activity, academic performance, which most times deteriorates. These are some of the indicators that would make us know that, hey, emotionally, a lot is going on. A lot is off track. Children and adolescents who parents will come and say they're lazy, lie in a bed all day, them no want to get up, them not do nothing. They are labeled as lazy, and yes, they are misunderstood, because truth be told, some may be lazy, but the other reality is that many are having emotional problems. And when they continue to be ignored sometimes, or to be given, ascribed the wrong reasons for their behavior, then they are left by themselves to find someone who will seem to understand where they're at. And many times, it may lead to the use of substances of various kinds. We have had our first experience with someone who was admitted to the hospital for complications of the use of Molly. And in that particular case, you know, there's a lot of confusion. And it took her quite a while, a couple of weeks, for her to settle in that situation. So this is just one example, but it is likely to be replicated as we go on. So we're using up hospital beds, we're using up scarce resources, but we have to take care of the business of health. We know that there are many ways to cope. We know that there are many reasons that persons have ended up using drugs. And I was struck by an article in The Observer this week, on Sunday actually, where Mr. Simmons, I forgot his title now, but he was speaking about the fact that we are quick to run and to label people as drug abusers and addicts and all kinds of things, when there is a major problem with our families, with our communities, and communities including our churches, and all kinds of organizations, the police, you name it. There are problems in these areas. But when the people who cannot cope anymore would make a choice sometimes to turn to drugs, we quickly write them off. It must stop. And as we have been saying, we need solutions where everybody is involved. Mental health has its own challenges. Everybody wants to talk mental health. Who really wants to do mental health? It is very important, and this is a forum that we must be able to launch things to another level and stop the talking and let us get busy. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Okay. With all that has been said, I just need to probably say one thing and take my seat, because I realize the discussion, the information is being covered quite adequately, but from a counselor's standpoint, I think one of the things we need to look on is really how to have strategic interventions, because if we're really going to help our students, interventions have to be strategic. Sometimes the interventions are temporary interventions, and where we need permanent interventions. And so from a home standpoint, we need greater permanent intervention. When we look in some of the home structures, what we see, the kinds of support that is there is not adequate enough to sustain the family, to help the teens to really resist some of the pressures that they do come under. So a part of the discussion or a part of the solution that we need to look on is how to have permanent interventions. If we pull someone from a system, where do we place them? Do we place them in another situation that puts them at further disadvantage? Or do we make their life easier and better? And so therefore intervention is going to be critical, but permanent intervention that makes our teens and even our adults, because sometimes the discussion around drug use surrounds the teenagers. But the truth is that sometimes teens learn drug use from adults. Sometimes they learn it from adults and even in the homes, because the truth is that the marijuana comes home. Yes, you know, it's rolled up, put in a drawer, it's left on the table, and so therefore they see it and they become curious. And out of curiosity, we develop habits, and we see that manifesting itself in multiple ways. So for me tonight, I want a part of the solution that we're going to be looking on. We hear the problems, we're aware of the problem, the research is there to tell us where the challenges lie, but now we need to seriously wrap our minds around permanent intervention that is timely and strategic. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Wildman. A very pleasant evening, everyone. Let's go again. A very pleasant evening, everyone. There we go. There we go. I'm not alone up here. So, I'm indeed happy to be here. I would have volunteered at NCDA before, and trust me, they are wonderful people to work with. I enjoyed the Taught the Truth program that I was a part of. Excellent, excellent, excellent. And so it's a pleasure for me to be partnering with NCDA, and let us get into it. So my perspective on the theme, drug-free lifestyle trending, I really love it. I really love it. I really love it. And this is why I love it, everyone. For me, I believe jumping out from this theme, drug-free lifestyle trending, I am seeing a tiered approach, tier 1 to 3. And the reason why I'm saying this is because, for one, tier 1, this is where prevention comes about, awareness. Data sets are shared, statistics, you'll find the data sets that speaks to the type of drugs that are available. The statistics is there, and you can see it per gender, as per gender, and the parish, all right? For tier 2, which is more secondary intervention, from this theme, I'm getting that there is still hope for persons who are using it. Yes, whether occasionally or otherwise, that jumped out at me. And thirdly, the third part of the tier is a tertiary section, tertiary intervention, where you have persons who are really in dire need of the support because they are addicts. So they may need to be referred to a residential area where they can be given the training or the support to become drug-free. I'm getting all of that from that one theme. Excellent theme, NCDA. All right? So as a Ministry of Education, I can speak for Region 5, which comprises of Manchester and St. Elizabeth. There are quite a lot of cause for concern as it relates to drug use among our students in schools in Manchester and St. Elizabeth. There are 62 schools in our region. Yes, and I really like the idea that Ministry of Education continues to partner with National Council on Drug Abuse to have all of these programs in place. So that is going for us, all right? HFLE is also taught in every school. So from a primary level, the teachers are expected to teach this. And with this, in this curriculum, our teachers are expected to pair the life skills with different values. All right? So our students are aware of the values and the life skills that are relevant to them making responsible decisions so they can be more conscious and productive students in our society. Our guidance counselors, they partner with numerous agencies, state agencies, private agencies, and otherwise, to provide that quality wrap-around support. So our guidance counselors are given the task of creating their comprehensive program. And it's based on needs. What are the needs of the stakeholder groups in my school? So if they're in a school in St. Elizabeth and drugs is a need that they need to target, they're expected to put intervention plans in place to treat with that. That means reaching out to NCDA, and I know Miss Roy as well as Mrs. Bowen works closely with our counselors in our schools. So we have that relationship going on. Our deans of disciplines, they also work with our counselors to provide that type of intervention, and so our counselors can do more therapeutic work with our students. And needless to say, there are so many resources from Ministry of Education that speaks to how drug should be treated. If you find that a student is using, these are what you're expected to do. So we have the critical incident manual. We have this handbook that Mrs. Atkinson made reference to, the Policy for Management of Substance Abuse of the Education System. We have, through collaboration with Jamaica Moves, Ministry of Health and Wellness, we have the Healthy Youth Positive Energy Handbook. We have also under the Safety and Security Policy, subsection 3.0, it speaks to how can we control possession of weapon and contrabands in our schools. So the information is there. It is all there. So implementation is what we need to be focusing on. Implementation is what we need to be focusing on. There's also school-wide positive behavior intervention, a framework, which basically focuses on teaching values and rewarding students who are demonstrating these values. Okay? There are so many things to give focus to, but I guess it will come out in question and answer later on. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
All right, great afternoon, everyone.
Good evening, Mr.
Or good
Miller.
evening, I should say, yeah. How is everyone doing? Awesome, awesome, awesome. All right, my name is Ricardo Miller. I represent the National Youth Council of Jamaica, and I currently serve as a public relations officer, and I'll be sharing in this capacity. Now, we realize that we have a problem as a society. I'm so elated that persons who went before me, they would have established a strong foundation concerning what is the problem, really. So the reality of it now is how we're going to intervene in this, how are we going to make a change, how are we going to make this now trending. Now, to create a trend, it will require a lot of change, a different approach towards this. It means that we can't do the same things because we'll only get the same results over and over again. But if at all, if we want a change, if we want to see a real impact, we have to have these preventative programs, not just intervene when it's getting out of hand, but how can we engage our students? How can we engage youths in general to have them thinking at another level concerning more positively, looking at the positive things to engage themselves in rather than just seeking the negative things because it's a trend out there? How can we give more publicity to the right thing and doing the right thing? How can we be creative in engaging our youths in this aspect of it? So that's where my heart is tonight, and we're just looking forward as we seek to continue, as we do what is needed to be done to have this drug-free lifestyle, and as we want this to be a trend indeed happening in our country. God bless you.
Thank you so much. Yes, sir. And with Manchester in his heart. 1 minute, sir.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. All previous protocols has been observed. I understand that I cannot go on later than 9 o'clock tonight, right? But if it's a law, I'm going to break that law because I'm getting out of here before 9 o'clock. My name is Anthony Freckleton. I'm the chairman of the Manchester Parish Development Committee. The parish is divided into 9 development areas, headed by a development area committee, chairman, executive, so forth. And we're working together to eventually, it looks like we're not going to make it for 2030, right? But eventually, we can't speak for the other parishes, that come 2030 or close to 2030, Manchester can be declared the parish of choice to live, work, raise families, and do business. And somebody asked me to add on and retire. So it's a lot of work. And in 2016, when I took over the PDC, I prepared like an executive summary of our Manchester 2030 plan, based on my experience in the parish, born right here in Mandeville, and so forth and so on. So I don't like to waste my time. You know what I'm saying? So if I see something and it is blue, I'm not going to skirt around it and say, it's kind of bluish. I'm going to tell you like it is. We have some serious problems, right? And we talk about village. There are no more villages around the place because we don't have no more role models. A village cannot operate without role models, right? And so everybody, we're on our own, and for the last 20 years, it's been getting worse and worse and worse. And to add to that, how many of us in this parish know about your constitutional rights? You understand? How are you going to live in a society and you don't know your rights and your responsibilities? I'm coming to that because we talk about problem solution. The PDC, with funding from the European Union, we have produced a booklet. And we have begun a second printing. I have rights. And tomorrow, I'm going to a PTA meeting, and I'm going to give the parents there a copy of the booklet to indicate what their responsibilities are and what the rights of the child as enshrined in our Constitution, and what they're entitled to. And that is part of our problem. So what has happened, a lot of people, we didn't know proper examples being set. We talk about somebody's gingerly skirting around dance hall. That's one of the root causes of our problems down here. But what happened now? Every 5 years, when some organization want power, right? Who they go to? Who they hug up? Eh? So you can't have a situation where one, at certain times, you're good to go. Another time, you know what I'm saying? But the problem is, in understanding this whole situation, I can't understand what they're saying in dance hall. I don't understand the language at all. You could have played till Thy Kingdom Come. Can you, sir? You can understand what they're saying? So what I'm saying. But their target audience understand what they're saying, right? And they are hell-bent on upsetting the system. So no. The problems with, somebody mentioned it, there is too much inequity in the system, right? Some places in Manchester, garbage pick up every week. And if you don't mind sharp, you pick it up twice a week or whatever. Other areas, right? Every 3 months, every 6 months or whatever. So some of us in Manchester feel less of a human being, right? Because we're not important enough or whatever. Yet we have rights, right? By law. Education is another one here now. The inequity in education is, I'm going to use the word, severe in our parish. No disrespect, all right? How could we be operating in a parish over all these years without an educational policy that speaks to equity, right? The 17 Sustainable Development Goals and the Constitution states that every child is entitled to equal access to quality education. How is it then that the more rural you go to in the schools, the infrastructure looks different? Eh? Right or wrong, ladies and gentlemen? Everybody quiet here.
Time, sir, time.
Yeah?
Time, sir.
You understand? So now, if you have somebody, place somebody in a fancy surrounding, their behavior will reflect their surroundings. And as you go down the line, right, infrastructure depreciates, the behavior, it takes on the behavior of where you are, right? If you raise a child in a forest, the child will end up imitating the sounds of the forest. No so? How is it? And the other thing too, when I started this our 2030 plan, we had it completed by 2017, I asked the Ministry of Education for a list of all our early childhood institutions in our parish. I think it was 177 at that time. And guess how many of those were certified? 7. Now we're gone up to a little over 30. Put your hands together. Oh, we're making strides. You understand?
We are making strides.
But here's what's happening now. Here's the problem. All the experts all over the world agree that the first 5 years of a person's existence is the most important, right? Focus on that. If you don't get it right in the first 5 years, you're not going to get it right. And we are reaping the whirlwind of that right now.
Thank
right?
you, sir.
How could we have tolerated that, right? In some constituencies, South Manchester at the time had 46 early childhood institutions. Not one of them certified.
Mercy.
Not one. How come?
We have to take the discussion, sir.
6 out of the 7, guess where they were certified? Central Manchester.
Mercy.
Okay. We're dealing with youth here, and we're being honest here now. How is it that South Manchester, 3 times the size of Central Manchester, the population is about 6,000, 7,000 more than South Manchester. How is it that we have 9 or more high schools in Central Manchester? And how many in South Manchester? 3. Right. How many in Northwest Manchester? Poor Mile Gully High School, 1. So now, the parents in the deep rural areas are at a disadvantage because of the social economic condition that they live in. They cannot afford, because of transportation, to send all their children to school on a regular basis. So some of them get sacrificed. And listen, you have a smile, you know, because I'm not picking on anybody, you know. We are dealing with reality. If I'm saying anything, right? And you don't agree with me, stand up and say, listen, man, that's not right.
No, we're going
right?
to do that in the discussion.
Right.
sir.
So I am going to tell you what we are going to do. We are doing at the PDC in partnership with the National Council on Drug Abuse, and we're going to partner with all the institutions that have anything to do with youth to get to the bottom of this. Because over the last 20 years, we have never missed a youth conference in Manchester, right? But that is it. Everything ends there. All the information ends there. What next, right? No. So here's what we're saying, you know. I was invited, and I'm going to take 2 more minutes. I was invited to a virtual meeting of the Youth Empowerment Unit of the Ministry of Education. And I learned at that meeting that that unit prepared a 2017-2030 policy document, right? And however, up to 3 weeks ago, there was no action plan. You understand? So they did the survey, found out what the problems were, but up until now, there is no action plan to deal with intervention. Oh God, man, you know, it can't work like that. So anyway, we push for time, and I'm going to just tell you that we have set up a subcommittee, a youth subcommittee of the Parish Development Committee, where we're going to be working with our 9 development areas. We have 424 districts in our parish, and what we're going to do in a pilot phase first, right, is to do a survey of all the young people in every district with a need, and register them. We're going to have prior to that, we're going to have an NCU has agreed to host us for a meeting of all the stakeholders, with everybody, Ministry of Labor and Social Security, any organization that has anything to do with the youth. So we can have a meeting to agree on the current reality of the youth situation in Manchester. And then we're going to invite down the powers that be, the minister and her team, to say, listen now, hear me out now, the folks. Here is what is happening in our parish, right? And here is what we want to do. The UNDP did a survey, 2021, I think it was. I have a copy of it. And embarrassingly, my beloved parish, right, came out second to last in the whole of Jamaica. Second to last worst parish as it relates to the vulnerabilities associated with COVID. You hear what I'm saying? Especially the youth. And you know what they said? They said, if we don't do anything about it, anything about the recommendations, it deals with the youth. Who was talking about mental health? Number one problem right now. It says if we don't do anything about it, all the gains we made, you know, when the IMF come down here and tighten up our belts and say, boy, you can only have half a meal a day and all them kind of things there, and the structural reform and all of that would be wasted. So what we're going to do now? That is what we're going to do. So we're going to roll up our sleeves and say, listen now, because the truth of the matter is, we don't have enough resources, both human and otherwise, being made available to deal with this problem. You understand what I'm saying? The people, I don't want to go into it, but they are overwhelmed in this matter. So we're going to have to now work together to get it done. So we are saying, and we have the venue already. We're going to get the consensus, and we're going to move on. This is what we have to do. Set up, have some youth ambassadors in every district. Have them registered. We did it with the COVID, the vaccine. The Plowden, the problems with Plowden, the people couldn't afford to go all the way to get the vaccine. We set up some ambassadors in every district down there. It was the most successful vaccination blitz in the parish. So we're going to use that same approach to make it happen. Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to ask one final question here now before I sit down. Are you all on board to get into all these districts? Yes or no? Because somebody defined madness, right? Of doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. Let us just put aside and no disrespect to anyone, right? Let us find a new approach. We have to get in there. We have to get in there. Don't make privileges burn up, right? We have to get in there and say, listen now, get the people, sit down. It's going to take some time, not overnight business. So the last time I checked, I have another few more years to go, right? So before I go, I want to have this done. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Here we have it. Did I tell you it's the man with Manchester in his heart and the man in the heart of Manchester? I told you that. I told you that. And so it was strategic for him to be placed where he was placed, because I know we have a lot to say. And so I just want to mention for our viewers that we have placed in the link a code for your survey. We want you to go ahead and scan, and we want you to do that survey. In the house, we have the hard copies, we have the practical things, we make sure that we cover every aspect. So before you go, we are not yet done. Before you go, I just wanted you to know. I want you to know, too, that at 7 o'clock, we had 64 persons on Zoom. Are you with me? Are you with me? Are you with me? All right, we're doing it. We have done it. And we are going to now pause for a few more minutes to take your questions. If you just raise your hand, there is a microphone standing right there. You can move to the microphone and you can now pose your question or your suggestions, yes, and your ideas, and we wanted to share. Oh, Detective Morgan, it's good to see you. It's good to have you in the house. And then after we have taken the questions and we are doing the discussion, we are going to, I promise you that I have a vape pen in my hand, and I'm going to be definitely showing you, but we are not going to leave it with anyone. So go ahead, you may pose your question. We're not hearing. My technical people?
Hello. Oh.
All right, here we go. Wonderful.
Hi, good night. My word is a bit much of a statement, not really a question.
Not a problem, we can take it.
So I'm in the communication field, and I have the privilege to work with a lot of youth. Most of my staff is youth, and I'm working as the project manager of Talk Up Youth. So, that's a big project going around Jamaica, and we have workshops. Now, I hear everybody saying, come up with a solution, or we have a major problem. But the major problem that I am hearing from a personal standpoint is that adults do not know, especially parents, do not know how to communicate with empathy to their child. For instance, I can honestly say I was in a place where I used to drink, I used to party, and I also suffered anxiety disorder, right? And when I approached my, parents and family, I spoke about it. Jamaica have a way where if you don't act normal or society wants you to act, you're trying to be mischievous. You don't want to do your schoolwork, so you say you have anxiety or what that. And so, the empathy is not there, so you lead to try to find something to control it. And for me, it was like drinking wine, You get to sleep and you get to calm down. Next thing is parents, on a whole, is going through a lot of problem. So they come home from a hard work. Your father, he might work hard, harder than 8 hours. Your mother, whether it's a teacher, I had a mom who is a teacher, and she loved us, so I come home. There's no space for you to have a conversation. And if you start have a conversation, it's like, Lord, I'm tired, I can't deal with this right now. We'll deal with it tomorrow. And it's put aside. So we are here, NCDA and everybody, and we're having the town hall, and we're having the clinics, and we're having the school tour. But the problem is if we do not train the parents and adults on a whole to speak to the youth without judgment. Because I grow in St. Mary, and once you smoke ganja, you know, it's a criticism. Oh yeah, we dead man. Now come to nothing, see my bonnet, ray. And the truth is, we do not know as adults how to speak with the young people. That is why when them find a man, the Don on the corner, we are reason with them. And, you know, they tend to go that way.
Okay.
So how is it we are going to now take that into the household, into the very place where they're not able to share their voice? Because you can't go NCDA, you can't go to school tour, but when you go home and your parents push you one aside, you're going to go back.
All right.
Not only that, how are we going to help the demotivation after someone go through, I guess, rehab or counseling? So you're an addict and problem user, I should say. Yes, let's take away the negative name, problem user, and then you quit now, and you don't have a job, and you don't have nothing to do, so you go home, and you're like, yeah, I'm drug-free, yeah, you're broke. Not now go on.
Yeah, well, you need to have some money.
Exactly.
You need to live because economics
Exactly.
says
and you're
it, you
stressed
know.
out now,
and-
basically going to go right
and then
back
we are going to go
square
right back.
one.
So
that's
if
my two
if I'm
cents.
hearing if I'm hearing correctly what you have put forward, we need to have that love in our heart that we know how to empathize. We need to stop the labeling. We need to, parents, I am appealing. I'm using this medium to appeal to you that I know it is difficult. I'm a parent too, but we are just begging. We are asking that a part of the solution is that we learn how to speak to our children and empathize rather than sympathize and kick around. We want you. We empathize with you as parents. We really do. We really do. Or we have somebody else standing at the microphone. You may go ahead, sir.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, sir.
I want to just give you 2 points where we are concerned, 2 points of concern.
Okay.
And I think Mr. Freckleton might be in a position to assist in making some recommendations to the government.
Okay.
Because you are the president, I think, of the Parish Development Committee.
Yes, he's a chairman.
And should work close to the government, right? All right, couple of issues. One, the fact that drugs like Mali, ecstasy, mostly all the drugs under the MDMA issue, are not under the Dangerous Drugs Act. Wow. Therefore, the challenges we are having is that when they're being sold at schools, you can only confiscate.
Oh.
We need people to face the consequences of their actions. So our recommendation is to get these things put into the Dangerous Drugs Act. Too much of our children are suffering as a result of drug abuse. And these drugs are not under the Dangerous Drugs Act. So the police is crippled in that issue. Another problem is the lack of state-run rehabilitation centers for youths.
Come on.
So I think we, as a country, we have to be concerned about the level of abuse in our country as it relates to youths and the fact that there's no rehabilitation centers in as far as the government is concerned. As far as I see that, it shouldn't happen. It's unbecoming.
Wow.
We should put something in place to rehabilitate our children who have been encouraged by adults to get involved in drugs. Some of them have been tricked into drug use, and they have to suffer these consequences without no hope of coming to their senses of being rehabilitated and of having the opportunity to live normal lives. So can we just ask you to make those recommendations on behalf of law enforcement? We need laws to arrest these people and to allow them to face consequences. We need rehabilitation centers that addresses the need of our young people. Thank you very much.
Oh, what? There is a microphone, sir.
Hello, sir.
He's going to sit, so you can go ahead. Answer, sir. You may respond.
Hello, sir. So you know the persons who are selling the mollies and all that kind of stuff? You know them? You can identify them?
In some cases, yes.
In some cases?
Yes.
That's all I want to find out.
Yes.
Right? Definitely.
Yes. And there are citizens who are willing to give us information.
Thank you very much.
Wonderful, wonderful. Ms. Curlew, I see you sitting on the edge of your chair. You want to say, go ahead, go ahead.
Just want to say that we have a promise from the Prime Minister that the legislation will be changed soon. So they're looking into it so that Molly and other illegal substances will come under the Dangerous Drugs Act, and then you can act on doing the arrest and what you need. It is now currently under what again, okay? Hush, you have to remind me. Right, so they're looking at putting it where it needs to be so that we can give the protection to our society that is required and to empower you so you can do your duties.
Amen. And the other issue is the availability of things like
Rehab.
the vaping instruments, paraphernalias.
That's included as well.
Please, thank you.
Yeah, oops. That's included as well. They want to protect our children. And the Prime Minister has given his promise. And where rehab is concerned, we're looking at alcohol policy and having more available rehabilitation for our children and the society at large. Resources are very limited, and this is where we need to partner more with other entities to make this happen, private-public sector partnership, because the resources are limited. It's not everybody paying taxes, so the government have limited resources.
All right, thank you so much, Ms. Curlew. There is... Okay, so we are going to have a question coming from the Zoom platform. Go ahead, please. Hold on, hold on. Hold on so we can hear you. If you're having a difficulty speaking so we can hear you, could you just type your question so we could read? You have it now? Okay, they're working on that. And while they work on that, I want to run to a question also from Zoom. Someone is standing at the microphone. Someone says, what's the intervention plan in place for the vaping in schools? Mrs. Atkinson, will you answer? And then we are going to take a question. We have seen you. Just hold your position in a moment. So let us hear from Mrs. Atkinson.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that question. Echoing. Or would they need to hear it? No, they need to hear it on Zoom. Is that Zoom? Okay, so the answer to that. Justine's mic. All right. All right. Everybody can hear me now? Yes. Oh, much better. That's a very pertinent question, and the answer is multi-pronged. What are we going to be doing about vaping? First of all, increased awareness not only among students, but also among teachers is necessary. The generation of vape devices has changed over time. So there are some devices that students have now, that teachers don't even know that it's a device. So you have things that look like a perfume bottle, and students are using it in the classroom, and the teacher don't know that it's a vape device. So part of the intervention will include increasing teachers' capacity to understand what is happening, to be able to be more aware of what these devices look like, also to be able to provide a brief intervention for students when they are found to be vaping. For instance, today, the school that has 96 students vaping, we had an intervention with some of their school leaders to be able to build their awareness about the impact of vaping, also student awareness, because that's also important. So there is, as I said, multi-pronged: screening, brief intervention, and to be able to provide referrals. There is a 6-month plan to be able to move through the various education regions to build capacity to do that. There's also the plan to be able to scale up prevention programs that are in school, because as the gentleman said, the approaches need to be strategic. It can't be that you just go in for 5 months or 2 weeks or a one-off pull-out program and not do something that is sustained. So those are some of the plans that we have in place to deal with vaping. Is there anything else that I'm leaving out, Ms. Kay? Increased awareness is a major thing too, because what our young people think is that vaping is a safer alternative to regular cigarettes and traditional tobacco use, and it is not true. Social media platforms, all of those things, multi-pronged, right.
Just before you move, Mrs. Atkinson, another question coming from the Zoom platform is, what is Molly? Could you just answer that before you move?
What is Molly? All right, Molly is MDMA. It is a man-made drug. It's a 29-letter word, which starts with 3,4 methylene dioxymethamphetamine. All right. Right, it's a long, long word. But what is it really? What is it? That doesn't tell us really what it is, because that's just a long word, right? It is a drug that has a high potential for abuse. That's the first thing we must know. Typically used as a party drug, it has effects that impact our mood, aggression, desire for sexual activity. It can impact our muscles. It can also cause significant problems with our heart and blood pressure. It can cause significant problems, especially if people start using it habitually, as we have heard. There are some students who go to parties and they start the party with 2 mollies and they continue the party and continue to use. One of the things that is not widely talked about is the significant low that comes after the high. So it can cause long-term problems with depression, with other mental health issues. This is not a drug that we want to experiment with, nor use habitually. What we also know about Molly, some people are using it in ways that, to enhance other people's sexual activity, but they don't know that they're being drugged. Do you understand what I'm saying? So they're putting it in people's drinks and taking advantage of them sexually. And this is something that we have been receiving reports about. And we're not only talking about adolescents too, we're also talking about young adults.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Atkinson. Mr. Richards, we have that question now from the Zoom platform. We're ready. Let us take Mr. Richards at this point.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Hello? Okay. Good evening, everyone.
Yes, Mr. Richards, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, very nice. And generally speaking, I realize with the young people in general, they're not like from my from my generation, we can't rough treatment and tough love to reprimand them. I realize with this generation, if they don't see the need, I don't understand what to do. Even to save their life, they won't do it. So I realize even I employ a lot of young persons and especially ladies, and I realize sometimes when they come with strange, behaving strange, and I try to talk to them, try to.
We seem to have lost Mr. Richards, did we?
Recording in progress.
Is he back with us? If he's unable to join us this way, could he just type his question? Could we just
That's my little take on it. But it's a very good presentation.
Oh, we thank you, Mr. Richards. We heard some We heard some of what you said, but not all of it. But the gist of what you have said to us is that we cannot treat the young people of today in the way that we were brought up. The tough love thing doesn't work. We have to be more sympathetic and a little bit more gentle, if I heard you correctly, so that they will know just how to proceed. We're coming down, people. We're almost to the end. We have one question. Is the chapter chair for the JCSA. We need to take her question now. She was standing at the microphone. We thank you for your patience. Ms. Ferguson, you could go ahead now. We just had to quickly take that from the Zoom platform, and if anybody else has another question, you can prepare that, and whatever question comes after Ms. Ferguson will be your last questions for the evening.
Sister Marshall, it wasn't a question, it's a comment.
Okay, go ahead.
This morning when I was coming to work in the taxi,
Just step a little bit closer to your microphone. Okay, good.
I said this morning when I was coming to work in the taxi, you can imagine something that happened in taxis. And the same thing that you're talking about today is the discussion that was in the taxi on the way up. And you know, the traffic from Caledonia Road come up, that was what we were talking about. Matters re national drug abuse. And surprisingly, some of the things that came out in this meeting, especially the lady that was wearing the orange over there, she was saying we're parents concerned and what happened. So behind another taxi was a picture of a little boy, and it said missing. And then they were saying that the father was down here looking, putting up pictures for that little child. And then somebody in the taxi said, the mother is abroad, but the mother tell another parent to take the little boy into Mandeville and give to the auntie. So the poor father don't know where the child was. But that picture that was circulating, they said that somebody called the father to say that the child is in Mandeville, so he was there putting up pictures. So what they're saying is that parents have a lot to do with their children nowadays, because if that child grew up not knowing the father, what would happen? Because the father wanted to take care of him, but eventually because of the mother and the father tag and war, you give him away to another person, and the father now is looking for it. So somebody was in the background of the car and said she grew up like that because her mother did not let she know her father and tell her a lot about the father. But when she met her father, it was a different thing. And her father was so nice. And she said that if she knew her father, she would be a better person. Because her mother used to call her good for nothing like your daddy, and you're not come to nothing. So she said she has 3 kids now. And every time something happened, they say, come on, my police son, come on, my doctor's son. Him not behave like how her parents treat her. So he said, because you put the instinct in the child, that's what they grow up with. And then she said, because she did not know her father and what her mother said, she went to the dance, she smoked, she drink, she party. So these things are coming from far back, because a big adult was talking this morning, and it was in the taxi, and the conversation was so intense. And because I have to come out to work, I did not hear it. Yes. So I'm just saying what we said this evening rolled over. And it's true, because I remember a teacher said to me, Mrs. Ferguson, you know what happened in some classroom? I asked a question. Children, tell me how daddy would greet mommy when he comes home. Some say, hi, darling, you all right? And some would say, you have a good day today, or what happened today? And this little boy get up and say, what, Chris, what's that? You look at me dinner yet? So, you know, so is it type of what
such environment.
Yes.
If we're hearing you correctly, we're hearing that our children need to have both their parents.
Yes.
We need to make the household a castle. We need to ensure that mommy's queen and daddy's king. And so we have prince and princesses. Are you with me? We need to create that environment, if I'm hearing you correctly, so that the village can be reignited. Are you with me? And we can get this done, this drug-free lifestyle with love bubbling over. Parents, we're appealing to you this evening as we take a wrap. As we take a wrap on this old town hall. Parents, we're appealing. Set good examples so your children will have the role model that they need to ensure that they are number one all the way. It has been my pleasure to serve you this evening. I had a wonderful time. It's almost time for us to walk through the door. We have had a good discussion, robust it is, and it feels like we shouldn't say that we're out of here. But all good things come to a pause. Good things never end. They continue because everybody in the room will now become an advocate. Are you with me? An ambassador. So good things never end. Good things just come to a pause. And as we pause this evening, it is my pleasure to invite my regional manager, Mrs. Janet Roberts-Bowen, to make that official move. My panelists, you have been great. We couldn't do this without you. A round of applause for the panelists. You did well. I mean, when I listened to the public relations officer, I said, no, sir. We need to have just one forum with just some young people. We're going to plan that one, sir. Definitely we have it. I know, Mr. Miller, I know. Miss Bryan, it was a distinct pleasure for us to have you. You have not only whet the appetite, and we're going to be doing it again. She did. My co-workers all, my director who has been in the parish since morning and told me a little thing that I can't share with you, and she's still here. It's a pleasure to have you here with us. The media personnel, it has just been a wonderful, wonderful evening. So it's my pleasure to hand over the microphone to Mrs. Janet Roberts-Bowen.
Could you just give Mrs. Baker a big round of applause? Did she do an awesome job? Just give her another round so that she knows that you felt her presence. Thank you so very much, Mrs. Baker. Really appreciate the job that you did this evening, in leading this activity. It has been a very wonderful evening. My room wasn't as filled as I was expecting. And I'm telling the people online, some of you could have come and you didn't come. But I'm still glad that you're online. Yes. And you know what happened? You're going to miss the refreshment. So next time when I call you, you come. Here. My colleagues, members of the panel, I am so appreciative of the work that you did this evening in this our town hall meeting. I know that we had quite a bit of conversation, but the conversation will not be finished today. I am expecting that we will continue to talk. We are all in the same parish. So I am expecting that the conversation will continue. And I just want to thank you all for the awesome job you did. Pastor, pleasure having you here today, offering the prayer on our behalf. I know that the Lord would have been with us and has kept us. Madam Bryan, So nice to have heard from you. I heard Councillor Oliphant, who had to step away a little bit earlier, said a solid presentation. Solid. And we are so pleased that you are a part of this parish representing young people and someone who we will now be able to call on for future activities. We are so glad that you were able to share with us. And sister, who supported sister, so happy you were there, Tower of Strength. Sister Oki, so nice to have heard from you. As usual, very, very good presentation. Miss Carlo, thank you so very much for staying and missing the birthday celebrations. Not for her, but she should have been celebrating elsewhere. And so we really appreciate you coming and staying. And in their absence, Dr. Paul and Mr. Oliphant and those other colleagues who had to leave a little bit early, really want to say we appreciate your participation. Dr. Holder, really glad you were able to make it and staying with us the whole time. Really, really, really appreciate that, Doc. And we're looking forward to some other great activities. My colleagues who have been on the floor and just helping to ensure that this thing goes as well as it has gone. Really want to just thank you. The media personnel in the room, happy to have had you. My colleagues from UCC, thank you. So glad that you were able to make it. Mr. Morris, who traveled all the way from Montego Bay to be with us, really happy for you. And everybody, just give yourselves a big round of applause for coming and staying the course and supporting and talking, okay? And my people on Zoom, yeah, I heard you tonight. I knew you weren't here, but I really am so glad that you decided to join on Zoom. Miss Curlew, I think we almost had 100 persons on Zoom, and you noticed that we were having questions. Persons were participating, and so we're very happy for you, my friends and colleagues who joined us via Zoom. And for those persons on the other media platforms, Facebook and YouTube, thank you. Instagram, thank you so very much for joining. I want to tell you, those persons who can join us tomorrow, we have highlighted some problems here today. And tomorrow we're going to be praying about them. So if you can join us, we will be at the Mandeville New Testament Church of God starting at 10 o'clock. So it's between 10 and 12 o'clock. We're going to be just praying about some of these issues. And we are inviting you to join us. Thank you so very much. God bless you. And have a very blessed night. Please feel free to join us for refreshment. And have a safe journey back home.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Bowen. From the Zoom platform, I have to read this comment. It says, good evening, everyone. Commendation to the organizers. As alluded to before, education is important to build awareness to all stakeholders. As a health promotion officer, strategic intervention is a must, and if I might suggest one such strategy is to try and reach these valuable stakeholders where they socialize. This might be at a plaza, on the corner, or on social media. I say again, it has been a wonderful, wonderful evening. I want you to remember that you will reap whatever you sow. And this evening you have sown good. And you will reap longer. You will reap longer, far later than you sowed, and you will reap much more than you sowed. It was good to have you here. Remember to do the surveys. Are you with me? Remember to do the surveys on the platform. You just go scan. You know it. The QR code is there. Just go into your scan and fill that out. We would so appreciate that. And you who are here with us, I know you will do that at the door. God be with you. Have a great rest of the evening.